A reporter led to a series of investigations that the government has done into the affairs of the Caterpillar Corporation, one of the largest producers of agricultural and earth-moving and construction equipment in the world. That culminated in two events this last week. First, government agencies raided 3 buildings on the headquarters of Caterpillar in Peoria, Illinois, looking for all kinds of records, which they apparently took. And the second event was a report issued by Professor Leslie Robinson of the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College about the tax behavior of the Caterpillar Corporation. This is an evolving story, so let me just give you the bare bones of why this is important. The government contends, and Professor Robinson's report demonstrates in great detail, that the Caterpillar Corporation has, for at least 12 to 15 years, cheated the United States government out of billions, that's with a B, in taxes. And it has done this by creating, in effect, a half-phony subsidiary in Switzerland. It negotiated with the Swiss government a special tax arrangements in which the behavior and the profits earned by Caterpillar in Switzerland would only be taxed at 4 to 6%. Compare that with the tax rate here in the United States that is officially 35%, and you can begin to see what tempted Caterpillar. So it set up a company, let's call it, I'll be polite, with about 500 employees in Switzerland. This is a very small part of Caterpillar's business, since it employs a total of 118,000 people around the world. So this office in Switzerland is very small potatoes for this company. But it booked an enormous portion of the profits. Turns out they don't even have a warehouse, and yet they were handling the parts business of Caterpillar, all the parts made to replace those that wear out in Caterpillar machines. A big part of their business is this parts replacement, and it's very profitable. They arranged, in effect, for all the paperwork about buying and selling these parts and making the money for Caterpillar. They booked them all in Switzerland and thereby got away with paying only 4 to 6% rather than booking them here in the United States where the parts were made and paying the appropriate tax. If this were just about one corporation, I wouldn't be bothering you with it. But it isn't. What it in fact is a kind of behavior that many U.S. corporations, and indeed many corporations in other parts of the world, do as well. It's basically a game in which governments compete for where businesses locate their profits. For Switzerland, think of it this way. You get Caterpillar to do the paperwork in Switzerland, to open a small office, and to keep all the records, and you get 4 to 6% of billions in profits. That's nice for you in Switzerland, basically costs you nothing. You get the company to leave the United States for this purpose, not to pay the taxes in the United States, which would have been much higher. For us here in the United States, it's of course a deadweight loss. We lose a few hundred jobs that should have been here to handle what was produced here, but that's not the big thing. We lose billions. By the way, the estimate of the United States government runs into the $3 to $4 billion estimate of what was lost from this one company alone, just over 12 to 15 years of watching it, which the government has been doing. Bottom line, when companies do this, as they do it all the time, the government of the United States loses billions in taxes. That leaves it with 3 choices, and only 3. Number 1, with that money not coming in, you can cut government programs, give less money to poor people, give less money in loans to students, give less money to maintain the federal highway system. Somewhere there's got to be give. If you're not going to cut programs, then you have to make up the taxes you don't get from the companies that leave by taxing the rest of us, working people. In one way or another, raise the tax on alcohol, on cigarettes, on tires for your car, on the income tax, somewhere. And the third option, if you're not going to cut services and you're not going to raise taxes on the average person is to borrow the money and put the United States even further into debt. Every one of those is bad for us, but it's good for the companies that escape taxes, and that's why they do it. And it is good to see one of them getting into trouble, but it's a tip of the tax evasion iceberg, and many more companies should be caught, should be brought up before the court, both of public opinion and the legal system, because they have done a major damage to this country and to all the rest of us.